Everyone, it's Cass. Welcome back to my channel, What Cass Read. Today, let's do it. We're talking about all the spoilers, all the theories, all the things that we need to talk about for Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. Okay, let's just start with the big one. Let's talk about Althea's rape. It was as if a friend of mine had gotten raped. It was so jarring. When it was happening, I felt gross inside. To read it from Kennett's perspective was even worse. Let's just talk about this. Let's talk about all of this. I like to go on Reddit all the time to learn about, what other people in the community are saying, not just booktubers, but people who are fantasy lovers and want to talk about these things. A lot of people really were upset and angry, just like I was. A lot of people said that scene completely ruined the whole trilogy for them. They felt like the rape was used as a plot device, just kind of plopped in there, and I have to disagree with all of those things. I have a theory and an analysis of what happened. If you'll bear with me, let's get to it. In Ship, when Cyrilla is raped, I wasn't a fan of that. That to me felt more stereotypical, a rape used as a plot device to bring the story forward. I remember thinking, wow, Robin Hobb, you let me down a little bit, because I expected more from her character development at that point. We're 3/4 of the way through Ship. I was really surprised at the way I felt about Cyrilla's rape, where I was just like, wow, that was just kind of a throwaway. We didn't really talk about it. We didn't really experience anything other than her, like, leaving the captain of the ship's room and coming back to the satrap's room, and just like, I didn't feel like that was really done well. And then, of course, in Ship of Destiny, we get a lot of the scenes from Cyrilla where she is traumatized. She doesn't like to be alone with men. Any strong characters, even Ronica, she begins to panic, and so she is experiencing this PTSD. So Robin Hobb did come around to that eventually, but then I saw what she was doing, that maybe this trauma didn't hit Cyrilla until a little bit later, as she's trying to push forward and push her agenda forward, and she's really crumbling under the pressure because of this PTSD that she's experiencing from this rape. So then what happened with Althea and Kennett, everything from Althea's perspective, where it's all a blur, she can't really describe what happened, nobody believes her, like all these things, you hear about survivor stories, and even in the media today, you listen to some of the victim impact statements from the USA Gymnastics scandal. You read some of those, and some of those accounts are very similar to the feelings that Althea has described after her rape. And Robin Hobb wrote this in the year 2000. Like, all this stuff that's coming out now is so incredibly relevant. You come to really like Kennett in books 1 and 2. He's super charismatic, and he's just got this swagger of a pirate. For him to all of a sudden, quote, all of a sudden rape Althea, and he has all these thoughts about Wintrow that we've never heard him think before. In all of the POV chapters that we've had from Kennett, he's never looked at Wintrow that way. And, we're starting to piece these things together about Kennett, and we feel like maybe we've been lied to about Kennett this whole time, or he was a scumbag this whole time, but we never saw it. Here's my theory. Paragon. The relationship of Kennett and Paragon. Paragon, to me, represented a physical embodiment of a trauma survivor and a trauma victim, with his bits of insanity and all of the memories that he has repressed. That serves as the physical embodiment of a survivor who is repressing memories of their trauma. He lashes out at inappropriate times. There are accounts of survivors who have a hard time processing their emotions, and they lash out at inappropriate times, and their emotions are not theirs to control any longer. Paragon's hurts and the things that he has tried to forget just completely throw him into a depression. The hurts that he has taken from Kennett have driven him insane. He becomes the physical embodiment of what can happen to a trauma survivor who has no support and who has no one to help him through the pain. I think that the magical, fantastical side of it is that Paragon is able to take those hurts and those memories from Kennett, so Kennett doesn't have to deal with it. This could represent what would happen to a survivor who the complete opposite end of the spectrum, where, you know, they've completely repressed everything and they're just on the up and up, and they're succeeding at all of their endeavors. There's this darkness deep within them, but they just keep pushing it down because Paragon was physically able to take those memories and that pain away. So Kenneth represents the complete opposite of that, just the complete repression, and they're not complete without one another. And so when Kenneth finally reunites with Paragon, Paragon serves as Kenneth's physical trigger. Kenneth is completely triggered by the rush of memories and the rush of emotions that come back when he steps on Paragon's decks and he has a conversation with Paragon. That is Kenneth's trigger. At that point, Kenneth is no longer able to repress these memories. The cycle of abuse continues, and so the abuses that have been done to Kenneth as a young child, now he comes full circle and becomes the abuser and abuses Althea after he has this flood of emotions, this flood of memories, that he has that physical trigger from Paragon. Abuse and trauma survivors, the different stages of grief that someone may go through, and the final stage is always that forgiveness and that acceptance. And it's not until Paragon is able to do that that Althea and Kenneth are able to heal. I'd been processing what I was reading, and I viewed Kenneth's death scene not necessarily as a redemption, but as someone who is into the stages of acceptance and forgiveness. Paragon serves as the physical vessel for all of Kenneth's hurts. Once he is able to forgive, then Kenneth's able to die peacefully on his decks. That's what I took from it. So that's my theory. At that point, like, physically as a person, it's really hard to like forgive Kenneth, but as a character and as a reader, trying to process through this whole journey, that was where that's what I took from it. Whew, okay. We're done with all the heavy stuff. The other thing that I thought was cool was that the 3 Haven children have all had marks and damage to their face. Did anyone else catch that? Wintro had the slave tattoo. Malta is scarred from the carriage accident, which then turns into her elderling crest. And then Selden is scaled from his contact with the dragon. I thought it was super cool that all 3 Haven children had marks on their faces. I could fangirl all day about the Havens, Kyle Haven's discovery and him coming back on board back on board Paragon when he says, "I'm Kyle Haven, I just want to go home." A really heartbreaking moment. His death, I was kind of conflicted about it because he played such a huge part in everybody's life, and then he's shot and we see it from afar and we don't get to spend a lot of time thinking about it and discussing it. And maybe that could represent just how insignificant Kyle really was to the family at that point, because they had been able to move on and become stronger. Even Kefria's emotions of herself as a mother having failed her children because of the amount of control that she let her husband have over their life, and the maternal guilt that she felt when she thought that all her children had died and gone missing, and that she wasn't able to do anything for them. Kyle's influence on the family had completely dwindled. So perhaps it makes some sense that we just see him getting shot from afar and we don't really get to spend a lot of time with his death in the way that we spent a lot of time with Kenneth's death. I mean, I loved Malta and Rain. I loved all the Vestrits. I loved every single bit of conclusion that we got from each of the characters that we spent time with. Let's talk about the Fool. Let's talk about Amber. I had a couple people consistently message me or consistently comment and say, what do you think? What do you think about Amber? What do you think about Amber? And before I was like, I mean, Amber's fine and all. I'm not that into Amber, and this was book 1. Book 2, I began piecing things together. Book 2, I was like, I have a theory about Amber, but I don't want to say anything about it yet. And of course, as we approach the end of Ship of Destiny, Amber is the Fool. My first theory in book 2, when we get a lot more time with Amber talking about how to disguise Althea as a man, but when Amber herself comes to the ship docks completely in a disguise, like people can barely recognize her, I began piecing some things together. Obviously, all the things that she says about where I've been called a fool more than once in my life. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing there. Now, but at first, in book 2, I thought perhaps she was the same race as the Fool. That was my theory in book 2. And then as book 3, as we read along, it's revealed that Amber is the Fool. I was reading on Reddit, like I said, I read a lot of Reddit threads, that the revelation that Amber is the Fool happens at a lot of different times for different people as they read it, which I think just says so much about what Robin Hobb was doing, that she was placing these clues, and it's like, are you going to piece it together yet? Are you going to piece it together yet? Are you going to know yet? I will admit, I'm kind of a moron and kind of thick-headed. I didn't realize that Amber carved Fitz's likeness into Paragon. That one went completely over my head. I feel really foolish for not putting those two pieces together. And then as soon as someone said that, I was like, oh my god, yes, of course. So that was cool. I need to own up to the fact that I didn't catch on to that one at all. Yeah, just different pieces of Amber, the illness that came over her, sort of that molting, you know, where she looked a little bit paler than she had. And then, of course, after that, I put it together. I was like, duh, she's a woodworker. All the toys that the Fool made for the Mountain Kingdom children, duh, why didn't I put that together? And then, of course, at the very end where Amber says that, you know, there's some people in the north that she needs to call upon again, I was like, yes, Infinity Stars. This whole trilogy is firmly seated itself as probably my favorite trilogy. There, I said it. Probably my favorite trilogy. Okay, everyone, let's talk. What do you want to talk about in the comment section below? Please put any and all comments that you want to discuss. Obviously, we are here at this journey at book 3. Okay, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It's at WhatCastRead, the same as this channel, so we can continue this conversation on other platforms of social media if you want. And then, of course, you can follow me on Goodreads. That link is always going to be down below. You know how these videos end. I'll talk to you later. Bye.